Hello and welcome to Read Becca. Today we're going to do a quick, speedy August TBR, and I think this month I'm going to be getting back into reading my own books. I had kind of a library binge after my library reopened for browsing for really a couple of months. I was reading almost entirely library books. So we're going to get back on track, and most of what I've got this month is going to be from my physical TBR shelf. So first up, let's get right into it. I've got All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Toews, and I reread Women Talking and really enjoyed it. It renewed my desire to get back into her back catalog, which I have 5 books, I believe, on my physical TBR shelf for. So we're gonna get into this one this month. And this one says, Elf and Yoli are two smart, loving sisters leading very different lives. Elfrida is a renowned pianist, wealthy and happily married. Her younger sister, Yolandi, is a writer, divorced, broke, and forever chasing after the wrong men in her search for true love. But Elf is struggling with her demons, and Yoli doesn't know what to do. Elf wants to die and wants Yoli to help her. Yoli desperately wants her sister to live. 3 weeks before her highly anticipated international tour, Elf lands in the hospital after a suicide attempt. There's doubt that she will be well in time, but Elf doesn't seem to care. The bonds of sisters' love for each other are tested, and Yoli faces a decision that will forever change her life. So this is supposed to be a big tearjerker. I am looking forward to it as always. So next we have How to Be a Good Creature by Cy Montgomery and illustrations by Rebecca Green. And this is a gorgeous little book with a few illustrations. It's not full of illustrations, but I really like them. Here's another one. And this is a book, as it says, it's a memoir in 13 animals. So this is Cy Montgomery's memory, and it's not memoirs of animals. It is told through experiences that Cy has had with these animals. So let me just read the inside cover here. Understanding someone who belongs to another species can be transformative. No one knows this better than author, naturalist, and adventurer Cy Montgomery. To research her books, Cy has traveled the world and has encountered some of the planet's rarest and most beautiful animals, from tarantulas to tigers. Cy's life continually intersects with and is informed by the creatures she meets. So, sounds very interesting. This was a cover buy. I literally saw it at the store and had to have it, didn't know anything about it, but I'm really excited to read about it because I have loved some of Cy's past nature writing, and this should be a really good one. Next we have God's War by Kameron Hurley, and this one is going to be a real genre bender. Hurley writes kind of gross stuff, so I'm expecting a lot of weirdness in this. Nyx had already been to hell. One prayer, more or less, wouldn't make any difference. On a ravaged, contaminated world, a centuries-old holy war rages, fought by a bloody mix of mercenaries, magicians, conscripted soldiers. Though the origins of the war are shady and complex, there's one thing everybody agrees on. There is not a chance in hell of ending it. Nyx is a former government assassin who made a living cutting off heads for cash. But when a dubious deal between her government and an alien gene pirate goes bad, Nyx's ugly past makes her the top pick for a covert recovery. The head they want her to bring home could end the war, but at what price? And so that should be a fun, fast read. It's a little mass market paperback. Next, we have Deadlands Boneyard. This is set in the Deadlands RPG world. And there's a series of companion novels written by different authors. This one obviously is by Shen and McGuire, and so I picked it up because that sounded really interesting. This is a weird Western setting. Step right up to see the oddities and marvels of the Blackstone Family Circus and Traveling Wonder Show. Gasp at pit wasps the size of a man's forearm. Shudder at the freshwater nibblers whose voracious appetite can strip a man to the bone in a heartbeat. Beware the pumpkin-headed cornstalker, lest it plant its roots in you. These and many other fearsome creatures, both natural and otherwise, are waiting to be seen for the price of 1 copper penny. Annie Pearl is the keeper of oddities, the mistress of monsters. Her unique collection of creatures is one of the circus's star attractions, but Annie is also a woman running from her past. and the mother of a mute young daughter for whom she will do anything to protect. Hoping to fill its coffers before winter sets in, the circus steers its wagons to the clearing, a remote community deep in the Oregon wilderness, surrounded by an ominous dark wood. Word is that a traveling show can turn a tidy profit at the clearing, but there are whispers, too, of unexplained disappearances that afflict 1 out of every 4 shows that pass through the town. Ooh, spooky. So the next one I have is An Excess Mail by Maggie Shen King, and this one was kind of unplanned. This is not from my physical TBR shelf, but it's one I owned and was on my other shelves. So I wanted to pick this one up because I just read Before She Sleeps by Bina Shah, and that is a feminist dystopia, a reproductive dystopia, much like Handmaid's Tale, and in the same way it's told in a very close perspective from the individual women who are being subjugated, kind of. And in Handmaid's Tale you have more of a social construct where the wives could be more powerful potentially, or the infertile women could be more powerful, but really they're participating in the social construct of oppression of women. In Before She Sleeps, there's been a virus that has caused a gender disparity where there are very few women, and yet the women that remain are kind of powerless and are viewed as tools and objects for reproduction. In this one, I think it's almost the opposite of that, where there are too many men because of selective gender breeding, and so the men have no power as a result of that. So I think that's going to be a really interesting interplay between those kind of 3 outcomes in stories that I've seen, where we see very much that how the society treats the power of a gender is based on that society's ideals. So this one is kind of more based on the China one-child policy that has led to selective gender choice. So it should be very interesting, but let me read the back. Wei Guo holds fast to the belief that as long as he continues to improve himself, his small business, and in turn his country, his chance at love will come. He finally saves up the dowry required to enter matchmaking talks at the lowest rung as a 3rd husband, the maximum allowed by law. Only a single family, one harboring an illegal spouse, shows interest. Yet, with Mei Ling and her 2 husbands, Wei Guo feels seen, heard, and connected like never before. But everyone and everything, walls, streetlights, garbage cans, are listening, and men, excess or not, are disposable to the state. Wei Guo must reach a new understanding of patriotism to test the limits of his love and his resolve in order to save himself and his family he has come to hold dear. So that sounds really interesting, and I think it's going to be great to read right after that other work. And then finally, this one you will have already seen, From the Shadows of the Owl Queen's Court by Benedict Patrick from the Yarns World series, and this was my second BookTube Spin 3 pick. We have 3 months to read these, so until the end of September, but I'm going to try and pick it up this month. So let's read this one. As a captive of the Owl Queen's Court, Nasha's life has been one knife's edge away from disaster. But when she is threatened for nothing more than the color of her hair, Nasha attempts the unthinkable, escape through the dreaded Magpie King's forest. Hunted by sharp-toothed and sharper-witted foxfolk, and hated by all for being a witch, Nasha fears herself doomed until she joins forces with a mysterious young man with whom she finds a glimmer of hope, even as her own unpredictable powers flicker into existence. But hope is fleeting. The forces arrayed against her are insurmountable, and Nasha soon comes to realize that pursuit of her own freedom will come at a greater cost to the forest. As the darkness closes in around them, Nasha is forced to ask, at what price is she willing to purchase her life? How dearly is she willing to sell it? So I've loved this series. I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. And I think I only have one other book after this left. So looking forward to that one and wrapping up my BookTube spin picks. So other than that, I think in terms of long books, I am trying to keep a 500 plus page book going at all times, though I will probably finish up Shadow of the Wind sometime early in the month, and I will have to pick up something else chunky after that. So I don't know what that is right now. I will find something. Other than that, it is going to be Women in Translation month in August, and I have really been enjoying translated works this past couple months since Translateathon. They've been doing very well for me. So I will continue to pick up some of those. And more specifically, there is the Readathon that's being hosted for it by Kendra Winchester, Matthew Sharapa, and Jen from Insert Literary Pun Here. And they're starting, I think, on the 14th with 2 challenges. So the first challenge is going to be to read something that's not a novel. And so anything that's not a novel, plays, poetry, memoirs, nonfiction, etc. And the second prompt is to read something that was translated from a language that you have not read before, or have not read in a long time. So I'm sure I can hit probably both of those over the course of the month. I will try to hone in on the readathon, specifically after reading Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I'm pretty interested to check out some poetry, because that had snippets of translated poetry in it. And that was just a really interesting experience. So I would love to find something that is a work in translation by a woman, with both the original language and the translation side by side in poetry. So I'm going to try and look for that, but I'm going to focus that more toward the middle of the month. So I don't know what I'm going to pick up, but I for sure will be picking up some women in translation this month. So that's it for my August TBR. Thank you so much for watching.